tradition, conservation, family, the outdoors. It matters to you. It matters to us. This is Hunting Matters, presented by Houston Safari Club Foundation. Here's Joe Betar.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Hunting Matters on KPRC 950, brought to you by the Houston Safari Club Foundation. I'm your host, Joe Betar.
I am Ramon Robles.
And burr.
I was wrong. I saw you earlier this week, and you said it's cold. I said, I'll just give it a day. It'll be warm.
Yep, and you wore shorts to the office today.
Well, I figured one day of cold in Houston is all we get.
Yeah, man, it is brutal cold this week.
Yeah.
I mean, not brutal cold.
For us.
Yeah, but for
absolutely.
Houston, and, like you said, it'll be 85 tomorrow.
Yeah.
I think we're here for a little while.
It's going to stay freezing in some parts of the area for a few days.
Yeah, and what were you telling me? 7 degrees they're projecting with
just
some
depending
models?
on the models. Yeah, they have I didn't realize they had so many models, and the American model of all models shows 7 degrees Tuesday morning in Houston.
That's crazy.
The German model or European model shows 16. So it's
either way, it's still
cold. Thank God it's only 16.
Get the fuzzy slippers and the squishy pants out, honey, because we're going to be on the couch in front of the fire watching old movies and
perfect
having a bowl of chili.
Perfect weather for that.
Oh man, I'm kind of excited about that part.
I'm excited about the potential for snow here Monday because I got a 5 and a 3-year-old. They've never seen it. Yep. I'd love to be able to take them outside. Hey, all right, kids. Mind the dog poop. Watch, go play in the snow.
Don't eat yellow snow.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm not looking forward to driving in, but it happens every 20 years. It gets this cold. Everybody be careful out there.
Right.
You got to drain your sprinklers. We talked before the show this morning. Drain your sprinklers.
Yeah, always drain your sprinklers. That's a good.
That's not a euphemism.
That's a good tip.
Yeah, that means when you get home, drain your water sprinklers.
Oh, this show's going downhill fast. Our
guest, David Yeates, is regretting ever. He's like, it's too early for this.
He is, and we're going to get to David, and you guys are going to learn all about him. He's a pretty incredible guy. I've known Dave for several years, and have come to respect him and what he does. And he's got some great stories and some great insight on the outdoors. But before we get to that, don't forget, Houston Safari Club Foundation is going to have a online auction coming back Saturday, February the 27th. I get my dates right. I got too much going on. Ramon, we're going to be doing a live virtual auction that's going to be live streamed to Facebook and YouTube, and then we're going to also have an online auction, online only, that's going to go until midnight that night. Go online now. Go to wehuntwegive.org. Sign up. Get your account. Become a bidder. You can start bidding now. We're going to be giving away almost $1,000 in Bass Pro Shops Cabela's gift cards throughout the night. On top of that, it's going to be like a real grown-up live television broadcast.
Yeah.
It's going to be on Facebook and YouTube. So,
what's your involvement? You going to be on camera?
I'll be in the back on a headset making fun of all the people on the screen.
Okay.
No, I'm not going to do anything on screen for this one. Usually when we have the convention, I'm up on the stage a lot.
Yeah.
This will be kind of a nice change. We're going to host a watch party, of course, socially distanced with a few people, and it's our biggest fundraiser of the year. We got to raise money so we can do the scholarships and education programs and all that. And it's been a tough year for nonprofits with the inability to have conventions. So I just encourage everybody to go right now. Go to wehuntwegive.org. Click on the button at the top of the page. It says online auction. You can go in there, sign up. It's got a video, tells you how to bid, how to participate. Watch the live stream on Saturday night, February the 27th, 7 p.m. Central Time, and then you can participate in the live stream auction as well as the online-only auction, 2 auctions on onlinehuntingauctions.com. So go to wehuntwegive.org and sign up today.
Any thoughts on our little prize of coming up and doing a show with us as one of the auction items?
We talked about that, and they asked if you were involved, and they said absolutely not.
Oh, that's kind of insulting.
No. I don't know. We still need to talk about that. There's a lot of hunt trips, fishing trips, firearms, jewelry, artwork, and all kind of stuff on there. So we definitely need to talk about that though with the auction committee.
Okay. All right. Sorry I tried to help.
No. Man, I appreciate it. Any way we can raise money to give it back. That's what nonprofits do. That's what Houston Safari Club Foundation does, is we raise to give it away. Okay, folks, today we're joined by David Yeates. David is the CEO of the Texas Wildlife Association. Their website is texas-wildlife.org. Good morning, David. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Joe. Thanks for having me.
We appreciate you being here. And
you regret signing up to do the interview this morning? Too early for this nonsense.
I feel like I can help with that continued downward spiral of the program. So
good.
Happy to lend a hand.
I have some questions for you that are going to embed our ignorance. So just stand by for that.
Okay, I'll do my best.
It's going to be a long hour, David.
Looking forward to it.
So,
Okay,
David,
good.
you guys are based out of San Antonio. How's the weather going over there?
We're experiencing that same kind of winter blast that most of Central Texas is. A little bit of accumulated ice and snow, and of course that's got everybody spun into hysteria around here, driving around. We're gonna make it. I'm for one happy to get it. It's winter time. It's supposed to be cold.
Yeah.
So, I'm thankful to have a little bit of cool weather. Of course, I'll be ready for summer here in no time. But we're suffering through it, and we've got plants covered and baby trees wrapped with our landscaping up at the TWA headquarters and all that good stuff. But no, we're happy to have a little cold weather.
Yeah, it's kind of a nice change, absolutely. So you're based in TWA, Texas Wildlife Association, is based in San Antonio. Is that where you grew up?
No, I grew up out in West Texas, mostly Midland, where my father started his career as a young man in the oil field. But moved to Central South Texas about 10 years ago, and I've been with TWA now for right at 7 years. And of course, TWA itself is 36 years old this year and has been headquartered in San Antonio that entire time. Interestingly, we just moved our headquarters into a new permanent home that's been a culmination of a 3-year project, and we're now located just outside of New Braunfels on a 7-acre tract of land outside of town, and our new headquarters named in honor of our initial pioneer executive director, CEO, gentleman by the name of David Langford. So our headquarters is named in his honor, and we're all settled in during a weird year, but we've moved offices from San Antonio into New Braunfels, kind of right at the beginning of all of the pandemic lockdown stuff.
Yeah, that's
here
right.
we are, and we're all settled in.
Yeah, I need to come over and check out the new offices. I haven't seen your new place over there.
Yeah, come on over.
All right, folks, we're going to talk to David Yeates here on the other side. We're going to take a quick break. David Yeates, the CEO for Texas Wildlife Association. Learn about them at texas-wildlife.org. We'll be right back with Hunting Matters on KPRC 950.
She was a waitress at the only joint in town. She had a reputation as a girl who'd been around down Main Street after midnight. Brand new pack of cigs, a fresh one hanging from her lips, a beer between her legs. She'd ride down to the river and meet with all her friends. The road goes on forever and the party never ends.
Good morning. Welcome back to Hunting Matters on KPRC 950. I'm your host, Joe Bitar.
I am Ramon Robles.
We're here today with David Yeates. David's the CEO of Texas Wildlife Association. Good morning, David. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good, Joe.
Appreciate you joining us on this cold weekend. Ramon and I are got the coffee brewing here and kolaches, and we're good to go.
Yeah, I feel good. I feel comfortable.
Absolutely.
David, I got a question. If people are going to Google you, they're going to have to learn how to spell your name because you had an E in there. Yeates. Where did that E come from?
Well, to be clear, I did not put that E in there.
I thought it was like maybe a Hollywood thing.
No, that's my given name.
Okay.
Dad's family, they're all from England and kind of direct descendants back that way, and some of those different spellings and extra vowels just sort of lingered and accumulated along the way. But that's been the way that my father's family's spelt their last name Yeates, and there's multiple other iterations. Something I've struggled with as a Yeates and a Yeates and all those other different pronunciations. But yes, it's Yeates.
Well, you didn't let it hold you down because you are the CEO of Texas Wildlife Association. That's a big deal.
For better or worse. No, it's a real privilege to serve in this role and work on behalf of wildlife stewards and landowners and hunters across the state. And no, it's very fulfilling work and a real privilege to serve in this role.
David, I'm curious. You and I have talked about this before, but you were in the banking industry for quite a long time. How did you make that jump into wildlife and the outdoors?
Good question. You're right. I was a banker, community banker, primarily a loan officer for about 14 years. Coming out of school at A&M, I was an ag economics major and fell into the finance world. And interestingly, community banks are always encouraging their business development officers to be involved and to be community pillars and supporters. So I found myself serving on a lot of nonprofit boards over the years. So the nonprofit governance side of things was pretty familiar to me. And, growing up, fifth-generation Texan, we've got our old homestead up in the Rolling Plains, hunting, fishing, the outdoors, land stewardship. That was really kind of anchored in my personal convictions and what I'm all about. So this job was a really unique opportunity to marry some professional experience with a personal passion, and I've been fortunate that a lot of those banking experiences and skill sets that I've accumulated over the years have translated well over to nonprofit governance and public policy work and risk management and staff management, and certainly, as you alluded to earlier, budgeting and financial controls, fiduciary duties, particularly in the last 12 months. That's been extraordinarily important in the nonprofit space with all the fundraising headwinds that this pandemic has created for nonprofits and everybody, really. That's the circuitous path that brought me to where I am, and I'm fortunate to be here and glad to be in the spot that I am.
Yeah, and folks, if you're just joining us, we're talking today with David Yeates. David is the CEO of the Texas Wildlife Association. David, for the people that are listening that are not familiar with your organization, tell the folks exactly what is the Texas Wildlife Association. What are you about? What do you do? How big are you? Those sorts of things.
Sure. So, Joe, TWA was formed in 1986 1985 to address some issues that popped up at the Texas legislature. And it was a small group of landowners and wildlife biologists, really wildlife managers, primarily at that time down in South Texas. And very quickly, it matured into a membership-based association. And fast forward to today, TWA has really three parts of our mission, and the mission is about supporting wildlife conservation and wildlife conservationists, biologists and landowners and game managers in Texas. As a private land state, that's a unique set of challenges. So we do that in three ways, and how I always describe it, in terms of urgency, the alligator that's in the boat is the public policy realm. So we have a political action committee. We have lobbyists on retainer. We engage our membership that are around the state to reach out to their respective legislators, state reps, state senators, et cetera, and we interface with agencies like Parks and Wildlife Department, Animal Health Commission, Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, General Land Office, et cetera, as well as the legislature on anything that affects someone's ability to manage wildlife here in the state. And that's hunting regs, that's wildlife disease issues, that's rural property rights, eminent domain reform and groundwater ownership and regulation, et cetera, et cetera. So that's like the most urgent thing we do is the public policy work. And then you start to invest into the future. So we run a hunting program under our Hunting Heritage arm, and that's administering the Texas Big Game Awards banquets and program. That's running the Texas Youth Hunting Program, which is the largest mentored hunting program of its kind in the country. With support from folks like Houston Safari Club Foundation and some Pittman Robertson funds and just an army of volunteers. We're able to run, on a normal year, I hesitate to even use that word, 225, 250 hunts a year. Under pandemic challenges, we're going to hit around 150 hunts this year. And we're also expanding into our adult mentored hunting program. So, suffice it to say, we're trying to take a lot of people hunting and introduce them to why hunting matters and how you can do it, and try to demystify that and introduce people into what we would call safe, ethical, approachable hunting. And then we have an education program, and that's from very introductory curriculum for school children to very advanced, in-depth best practices for land stewardship, be it specific to wildlife species or brush management. It's a huge compendium of curricula, mostly focused on school children. That's where the highest volume is, those middle school science classrooms. Right. We're reaching somewhere north of 500,000 students a year through all of our various outreach programs. That's distance learning, that's internet broadcast, that's teachers on our staff that are in classrooms, running field days, et cetera, et cetera. So really what we're trying to do is just invest in that future Texas voter on why wildlife matters.
Wow. I wish you guys would try to go out there and do something. It doesn't sound like you have your time wrapped up at all. Okay, folks, we're going to take a quick break. We're with David Yeates today. David is the CEO of the Texas Wildlife Association. Join us on the other side on Hunting Matters on KPRC 950.
No longer travels, but is still pretty
Well, a woman I love is named Ramona. She kind of looks like Tempest Storm. She can dance like a little Egypt. She works down at the snake farm. Snake farm, it just sounds nasty. Snake farm, pretty much is Snake farm. It's a reptile house. Snake farm.
Welcome back to Hunting Matters on KPRC 950. I'm your host, Joe Vitar.
I'm Ramon Robles.
That's one I hadn't heard lately.
Oh, yeah. You like the old
Snake
Farm? Ray Wiley?
Reminds me of driving up and down I-35 near New Braunfels and San Antonio.
That's what that is.
I know.
Okay.
I know. Even when we first moved to San Antonio, we moved there 20-plus years ago, I was always intrigued by the snake farm.
Yeah.
Everybody knows the snake farm.
Did you ever stop at the snake farm?
I did once with the kids.
Okay.
Yeah.
See?
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it smelled just like you'd expect it to.
Yeah. Some people watch it. Some people write songs about it.
A whole bunch of reptiles and amphibians pooping in aquariums. That's what it smells like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
well,
folks, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm interrupting.
No.
As an older man, I check the weather quite often, and our guest this morning is David Yeates. And right now it's about 30 degrees in San Antonio, which makes me think, David, what are you going to eat this morning or this afternoon to comfort you? What is your comfort food?
Well, I tell you, we've got a Rudy's barbecue here in New Braunfels that I'm sure there are others that carry it, but they have this green chili stew.
Oh my!
But I don't see it most of the other Rudy's barbecues that I check in on.
Okay.
And that is, I always save it for these raw days. It is really, really good. So,
okay.
My advice to anybody in a Rudy's, if they've got the green chili stew on the menu, do yourself the favor.
Well, we discovered that there's a Cooper's now in New Braunfels.
Yep.
And they have, I don't know if it's like that in New Braunfels, but the one we stopped at in Llano,
Yeah.
they have beans, right?
Yeah.
Charo beans. And they're free.
Mm-hmm.
You just get your barbecue and then you get your bean. That would be the perfect food for me this morning.
Charo beans?
Charo beans.
Man, I can eat those morning, noon, and night.
Yes, sir. Maybe some cornbread.
Yeah.
Not too sweet.
No.
But okay. Anyway, I just took this show off the rails. I apologize, but these are the important questions we should be
hungry
asking
this morning. Can't help it.
I'm so hungry.
No, man, we all think about those comfort foods when it gets cold. It's like chili, stew. Growing up in Louisiana, for me, it's always red beans and rice and cornbread with a little andouille sausage. So,
man, and it's not just that it's cold, because it gets cold sometimes, but not this cold for this long.
That's
now
right.
It's when you think, oh my goodness, this is it.
Yeah.
So. Anyway.
Folks, we're with David Yeates, the CEO of Texas Wildlife Association. David, thanks for joining us today.
You bet. I really appreciate the opportunity to join you guys.
Yeah. Houston Safari Club Foundation and Texas Wildlife Association have been a long time of partners and proud of that relationship. And so, as you alluded to earlier, talking about policy and legislation, that sort of thing, something we're heavily involved with as well. Okay, here it comes. This is a legislative year for Texas. And for those of you who don't live in Texas, don't know about Texas, our legislature meets every 2 years, which is good, I think. Sometimes there are more urgent things, but it kind of alludes to the old-time principle of, what, politics are not supposed to be a career. You go and you do your work, and you go back home and you work the farm, whatever, that sort of thing. So, David, let's talk about what we can expect in Texas coming up. What are the hot buttons that you guys are really watching?
Sure. So, as you mentioned, our Texas legislature, they meet for 5 months every other year on odd-numbered years. They are volunteers. They're unpaid members or politicians. So, that puts a lot of demands on their time. And when we meet every other year for a pretty abbreviated amount of time, i.e. 5 months, it is an information fire hose. At a 30,000-foot level, Texas is 85% urban. Every year we drift further and further away from granddad's farm or growing up in rural Texas, and so we have a legislature that reflects our electorate, and many of them are urban. A lot of them are new to Texas, like a lot of residents of Texas. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to pretty inside baseball technical issues like wildlife management, natural resource management, some nuanced issues like hunting and fishing, if someone is not directly involved with and have that firsthand perspective on those matters, it's an uphill push to find the time to get that amount of information in necessary to make good public policy decisions in that really abbreviated time when there's such competition for bandwidth. So with that as kind of the overarching kind of challenge, we have COVID-related restrictions and headwinds on just access into the building, willingness of members to or ability for them to meet with public, in face-to-face settings, and just to keep everybody safe and spread out and staggered. It really exacerbates that limited bandwidth that we're boxed into with the 5-month session every 2 years.
Yeah, so, I agree. I mean, I don't mean to interrupt you, but we can't just shoot up to Austin and jump into a committee hearing and do the things we used to do, and that's going to be a challenge. 100%.
Now, you can go to the Capitol. I've been in the building a couple of times now. You can go get a rapid COVID test. The National Guard has a tent set up right outside the north side of the building. A lot of the members are comfortable with having folks come in. Some are not. And, the best advice is, reach out to those offices that you plan to go visit and see how they're handling it. Because effectively, each legislator is handling their own office business on an individual basis. The House and the Senate have different protocols on COVID testing and access into the chambers and committee hearings. And, the legislature is doing the best they can for Texans to engage and be participatory in a transparent way. But, we're plowing new ground, and there's no perfect answer here. Now, I will say that absence of people in the building communicating with legislators creates an opportunity for your listeners at home that want to engage and pay attention to and have their voices heard on wildlife issues, hunting issues, et cetera, by reaching out, by phone or email to their legislators in their respective districts. Because I know firsthand that those legislators, they want to hear from their constituents. They want to know where the public is on issues. So they really value that input. And that input, while it may seem diminutive or it's not going to make a difference, I promise you it does. So those of you listening, there's something you care about, be it wildlife or otherwise, in the Texas legislature, don't be bashful. Reach out and call your legislators and let them know where you're at. Specific issues this session, Texas Parks and Wildlife Department, Texas Animal Health Commission, and the Texas Department of Agriculture, along with some other agencies, are going through a kind of a 12-year audit that we call the sunset process. So essentially it's a deep dive and a review of everything those agencies do. And, of course, that touches a whole lot of stuff that we care about here at TWA. So we're super attentive to that process and have been, throughout the whole interim. We've been working with some other landowner groups, most prominently the Texas Farm Bureau and Texas and Southwestern Cattle Raisers Association, trying to improve the eminent domain process for private landowners here in the state. We're private land state. 80% of our land mass, or what's considered the working lands of Texas, they're owned by about 1% of our population, about 250,000 individuals or families. And that's where really all of our wildlife habitat is. That's where all of our aquifers are recharged, air filtration, food, fiber, on and on and on, all those open spaces. And with this economic growth and population boom in Texas, there's a lot of pressure on those open spaces through transmission lines and pipelines and roads, and the eminent domain process that's in statute is a bit antiquated. So we've been working pretty hard to try to improve that and refine it for landowners. So that'll have a lot of our focus. And then, there's I always say you never know what it's going to be, but it's going to be something. We expect there to be some type of stuff that comes out of left field that the Texas legislature is eminently capable of doing. That's for sure.
Absolutely. So. And I think you hit the nail on the head. We always knew Texas was a great state, but the secret's out and people are coming in. So I think it's very important for the people that have a history with the state to let their voice be heard in the Texas state legislature. Folks, we're going to take a quick break. We're here with David Yeates. David is the CEO of the Texas Wildlife Association. You can learn about them at texas-wildlife.org. We'll be right back with Hunting Matters on KPRC 950.
See you in Dallas. I've seen Jesus play with flames in a lake of fire that I was standing in. Met the devil in Seattle, Spent 9 months inside the lion's den.
Good morning. Welcome back to Hunting Matters on KPRC. We're in our last segment, Ramon.
Yeah. Now we got to get out in the elements here in about 10 minutes.
I know it. I'm your host, Joe Vitar, on Hunting Matters on KPRC 950.
I am Ramon Robles.
And we're joined today by David Yeates. David is the CEO of the Texas Wildlife Association. Good morning, David.
Good morning.
One thing I discovered this morning is you do not pour boiling water on a frozen windshield.
No.
I didn't know that.
Really?
I had no clue. I
Come
figured
on.
boiling water, get it.
Come on, man.
Come on, man. I had no idea. I'm inexperienced with this whole cold thing.
Oh, wow.
Everything's frozen.
Yeah, I like it, though. I like it. David, we're heading into our last segment here. I want to go back on something you touched on earlier. We didn't really do a deep dive on it. Talk to us about the youth hunting program at Texas Wildlife Association. I've always been a big fan of that program.
Joe, you and me both, and I do want to thank you again for the Houston Safari Club Foundation's support of that program. A little bit about it. It was started in 1996. It's a partnership that TWA has with Texas Parks and Wildlife Department, and through some private philanthropy and some volunteer hour matching, we're able to participate in the Pittman Robertson grant program, which your informed listeners would likely know. That's the federal excise taxes that are collected on firearms and ammunition and archery equipment. So we submit a grant request, and it goes through the department up to U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and then it's a 3-to-1 or 25%, 75% matching program. And those Pittman Robertson funds help us staff this Texas youth hunting program. So with the staff of 5 people, very capably led by a retired Army colonel by the name of Chris Mitchell and his crew, they recruit volunteers, youth hunters, and landowners all around the state, and with a literal army of thousands of volunteers, we run a couple of hundred hunts a year and take about 1,400 to 1,500 kids a year on a hunt. They bring mom or dad. There's a very nominal fee. These are everything from pronghorn antelope in the tops of the panhandle to American alligators down on the coastal bayous, dove hunts, duck hunts, mule deer, of course whitetail hunts, bucks and does, javelinas, hogs, spring turkey, you name it. There is something for everyone. And moms and dads or kiddos that are listening, ages 9 to 17, you can find that program with a quick Google search, Texas Youth Hunting Program, tyhp.org, or you can be found through our website. And, there's a big list of hunts that you can sign up for each season. And, it's really a remarkable program. Private landowners all across the state, from, tens of thousands of acres to 100-acre properties and everything in between. Those landowners are opening up their gates and letting us bring kiddos with mom or dad or guardian out to introduce them to hunting. And man, there's few things that will strike a chord in the heart of a hunter than going and out and volunteering on one of those hunts. So anybody that wants to get involved as a volunteer, please reach out to us. If you're a kiddo or a parent that want to give your kid an opportunity to hunt but don't know how, give us a call, look us up on the internet, and it's a program that's really moving mountains. A quick anecdote. That program's been around long enough that we're starting to see folks in the professional wildlife world that came up through that program. And I had a chance to meet a game warden the other day that was actually a participant with the youth hunting program as a kiddo. And that's just that's when you know that those long-term investments are really starting to bear fruit. And it's a cool deal, and again, it would not be possible without the support of groups like Houston Safari Club Foundation and so many others.
Yeah, well, we're proud to be a part of it. Do our little piece, and folks, you can learn about the program. Again, we're talking to David Yeates, the CEO of the Texas Wildlife Association. You can learn about this youth program at texas-wildlife.org. And I got to tell you, David, you bursted Ramon's bubble. He was rubbing his hands together, thinking, "Woohoo! I'm going to get to go on a Minard hunt."
Yeah.
And then when you mentioned the age group, but the cool thing is, Ramon's got two young boys. And so, I mean, they're at that age where they can get involved in it. So,
yeah, definitely sign them up. And we're starting to grow into that adult space. There's a lot of folks that have aged out, but that are still interested. Motivated by this locavore, food movement, and that ethical sourcing, and all those other words that I'll stumble over, but there is a resurging interest driven by COVID, by culinary proclivities, etc. And we're trying to meet that. So now we're starting to introduce some adult mentored hunts, and we hope to run in this coming season about 10. So about 70 spots for new hunters.
Yeah, that's nice, because there's that stigma. I feel it anyway. I'm 43. I never really hunted growing up. It was only later in life that I went on my first hunt about 5 years ago. So there's, as a 43-year-old, handsome, well-built man, it's kind of hard to try to get out there and have somebody teach you what to do, It's a blow to the ego.
Legitimate. Sure, absolutely.
Your presence is indeed intimidating.
What's that?
Your presence is indeed intimidating.
Yeah. I mean, I'm intimidated.
Hey, David, we're going to have to wrap up here in a few minutes, but I just want to ask you a question kind of off of the subject of TWA. If you could sit around a campfire today and talk with one person, living or deceased, who would it be and why?
Man, good question. Probably from a public figure, it would be Aldo Leopold.
Okay.
Just the grandfather of private land stewardship and wildlife conservation movement. Just a brilliant guy. He would be on the top of the list of public or quasi public figures. And a little bit more inside baseball or closer to home. I wouldn't mind sharing another campfire with my great granddad.
Yeah. That's we look back and go, man, I wish I had a little more time with parents or grandparents, and I think that's a perfect thing. So, folks, we've been talking today with David Yeates. David's the CEO of Texas Wildlife Association, and David, lightning round on the way out. You're going to head out of camp one night. You got to pack a pack, and you can only take 3 things. What are the 3 things you put in your pack?
Pocket knife.
Yep.
Flashlight.
Yep.
And if we're out in the field, I'm guessing it's going to be my Remington 721 and 30-06.
There you go. Done deal. All right, folks. Thanks so much for joining us on Hunting Matters on KPRC 950. Thanks for listening. David, thanks for being on the show, and we'll see you guys next week.